Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Prince of Persia 2008 walkthrough. Today we are heading to the first of the Vale's main levels, the construction yard, I believe it is. And we are going to beat the hell out of the alchemist. Because that's always fun. And if you are following the order of fertile grounds that I am, then this is when the corrupted start to get rather talkative. It's going to kind of get worse and then get slightly better come the warrior, but we are going to be spending a lot of time with corrupted that like to have a bit of a conversation whilst they're trying to murder you. Now, as I believe I said in the last part, the construction yard is another of the puzzle-type fertile grounds. You can see the puzzle right up there.
It's the fertile ground.
True. I think I'd actually be more comfortable if he attacked us. What's keeping these things in the sky? Armor?
No, these are the alchemist's work.
Now, when we have actually healed this place, it's going to look very, very, very beautiful.
These things are incredible.
Largely because of all those balloons. They're just very pretty.
Once this is over, they should be destroyed.
Why do you want to destroy them?
What is born of evil carries its touch. This land should be purged.
Can we move these fertile grounds
Now,
anywhere else?
Elika's response to the alchemist's creations is very negative, as you obviously have been able to see. And it has been noted that the kind of anti-technology positioning that kind of seems to be taken throughout this game is slightly odd considering the amount of technology required to make this game exist. But then it does kind of tie into a lot of just general thoughts that have been there kind of ever since the Industrial Revolution.
We should be able to get across if we get these beams lined up.
There is a lot of emphasis on the pastoral and like the countryside that happened during the Industrial Revolution in all of the literature.
Let's go.
And that has kind of never left us really. And it kind of leads to what you see here. And also, I think Okami has a similar sort of message in the whole technology is bad, nature is good, but I don't think it quite has such a negative approach to technology as this game appears to have. Now, this is the puzzle for the construction yard. It's, as I said, a crank puzzle, but it's rather complicated. Because essentially you need to access every single crank and turn them in the right order and position to be able to progress. And you can only get to each platform via the planks, so you can't do what I attempted to do there. And don't worry, I am going to get it shortly. I just took my time is all. Now, the way that these platforms and their rotation work is that you've got to get it so that when you are on this platform, it can rotate the far platform with the long plank in the right way to get it so that you can land on it, which we have just done there. And once you are on that platform, you can then get to where the fertile ground is. which is always very, very helpful, because obviously we need to go there because we need to heal it.
There.
Good work.
Although the fact that the alchemist hasn't turned up just yet suggests that something's going to go wrong right about now.
Uh-oh.
And there it is.
It is not that you cannot understand, it is that you do not even question. Knowledge enlightens. You close your eyes in blind faith.
Now, I believe that the alchemist is voiced by Grant Albrecht, or to be a bit more precise, J. Grant Albrecht, who has been in a number of things, one which I will cover in a little bit more detail after I've covered his other roles, because I want to talk about it a little bit more. So I think he's been in a lot of theatre. Then he's also the voice of the End in Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Crypto in pretty much all his Destroy All Humans games. He is the voice of Death Metal / Count Townsend in No More Heroes. And then he voices Tai Lung in the Kung Fu Panda game, as well as being in several theatre productions like What the Butler Saw, Later Life, A Chorus Line, and The Illusion. The other game that he is a voice in is Father Boulder in Bayonetta, although you won't find any credit towards him anywhere, because it was mistakenly credited to Liam O'Brien. And listening to the voice of the alchemist now, I can hear it. And that's quite cool, because up until I did my Bayonetta walkthrough, I never knew who voiced Father Boulder.
It's all right.
Because
It survived.
I always assumed it was Liam O'Brien, and it's not, it's Grant Albrecht. So, he's awesome for being in that role, and that makes me quite happy. Especially the fact that also, that just to find him in this game as well. And now it's time for this place to get rather beautiful.
See why you stayed here. What do you think he was doing to the fertile ground?
He must have been seeking to break the energy that links the grounds to the temple. He was trying to set Ahriman free.
Yeah, the
Well, we
cheeky
better
devil.
seek a way to finish him before he does that.
Now, every now and again, Elika kind of gets a little bit stuck in her magic poses. I don't quite know what it is, but the model ends up getting a little bit stuck in things. Thankfully it is gone off of her magic light seed collecting form, but we're going to reach a point later on where she's going to be glowing a lot. Now, another thing that I want to detail is alchemy in general, because obviously we've been seeing the alchemist, we'll be seeing him a lot more as we progress through the Vale. But I want to kind of talk about alchemy itself, because I don't think that really gets covered a whole lot. So alchemy is kind of the changing of certain things into other objects. Historically, the main goals of it are to find or create the Philosopher's Stone, to be able to turn kind of base metals into noble metals, so basically to like turn iron into gold or silver, and also to develop the elixir of life. And kind of there are a lot of links to mythology, magic, religion, and spirituality, but in kind of the early modern period, so you're talking about 1500, 1600, alchemy was a kind of seen as a sort of scientific thing. Because at that point, science wasn't science, it was called natural philosophy. And basically that meant that, well, there wasn't really any set way of doing science, and that didn't kind of happen until the opening of the Royal Society, which was, I believe, around 1667-ish. Not 100% sure on that date anymore, but it's around then. And even kind of people who you think are very awesome scientists were actually very heavily involved in alchemy. If I recall correctly, Isaac Newton believed quite a lot in alchemy. Yes, I am correct in that. So, Isaac Newton, the guy who discovered gravity as being a thing, was into alchemy, and he spent a lot of time in alchemy. So it was a big thing back in the day. And it was only kind of as you got into kind of the 1600s and started to get the growth of the Royal Society, that alchemy began to become discredited. And it particularly became, the hate for it became particularly strong around this kind of 18th century. Sort of, I think. Maybe. I don't know, but it lost its, any trust anybody had in it. But it's always kind of been linked to dark arts and just generally villainous things ever since. I mean, I'd say one of the only instances of alchemy doing any good is Full Metal Alchemist, although I've never really watched any of that, and I do know that obviously initially it causes a lot of heartbreak as well, so it's kind of since become the realm of magic and fantasy, but it was once a very, very real thing that a lot of people who you would classify as serious scientists or serious scientific figures were into their alchemy. And that is just one of the many historical facts that I will let you know as we progress through things. It's amazing what you learn when you read a lot of books. And also have a lot of people telling you about the history of these periods. You just tend to absorb everything. Now, as you can see, this area is going to take us a little while. Towards the end there was a moment where I was being a bit of an idiot and got a wee bit lost as to where the light seeds I was wanting were. But we will locate almost all of them in due time. Those two right there are probably two of the ones that you're likely to miss because they're a wee bit hidden. Because you don't really see them when you're on your way from this direction, nor do you really see them on the other side, so it's just kind of just knowing that they're there, and that should get you through, basically. Well, I have to say, the path kind of over to here is very, very short. Like, I was expecting something a lot longer, but it just isn't, which is quite nice. Because some of the kind of corridors between fertile grounds is just quite a bit long. Now, this guy is taking a lot more effort than he should do. That's kind of what happens sometimes. You just lose your flow, and then just get your ass handed to you, basically. But they really aren't difficult in the grand scheme of things. It's just I ended up being rather slow and clunky. Now, one of the main gimmicks of the Alchemist's Veil is that there are lots of kind of moving parts that kind of you swing on rings and things move to allow you to progress. Doesn't really change a whole lot in terms of the gameplay, but it is something that is there, and it's somewhat fun.
Any more out there?
I mean, there are other elements of the stages that move as we kind of get further, but this place is a lot more mechanical than the city, and heck, even the palace, really. I mean, there's elements of the mechanical things happening, but nowhere near this extent. And that works because obviously the alchemist liked to build lots of machines to do lots of various tasks. And I have to say, some of his designs are great. When we actually get to his final boss form after we get through the Black Gate, those balloons are pretty amazing, especially there. So that's certainly something to look forward to, especially with the fact that we have the Breath of Mars as a power. I really, really like it. It can sometimes be a little bit evil in terms of the level design, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just a really cool power to use. And here is the point where I'm going to be slightly idiotic in terms of trying to find light seeds, because I'm going to miss, I think it's about 1 or 2 that I really shouldn't have missed, because all it requires is simply to just look up. But yeah, I was a bit of a klutz.
Gonna survive.
One step at a time.
So, essentially, I believe that what I kind of ended up being an idiot and missing, because we've nearly got all of the light seeds in this area, is that just above the patch of grass to the right of where we were, there are 2 light seeds just hanging out in a little nook at the top. And I just didn't look up at the right moment to find it, which is really stupid of me.
If we could figure out a way to use those, it would save us a lot of time getting around this place.
Exactly. The Prince uses a lot of logic here, because, I mean, like, seriously, balloons. All you would need to do is just kind of rise up to the top of places and then just kind of slowly drop down on top of the fertile ground, and then you don't need to go through all the platforming.
Who was your last boyfriend?
Never had one.
Never?
Never.
You're seeming a little bit desperate, dude. wanting to know about her boyfriend. That's kind of suggesting that there are feelings developing there, or at least you are confirming the fact that you want to get into her pants, really.
No, you're heavier than you look.
Now, there we go. That is where those two light seeds are. And yes, I did run back around almost the entire area in search of them. So be glad that I cut that out. And as happens if you leave these kind of middle areas, the soldiers of Ahriman respawn if you kind of leave the areas long enough. And I have absolutely no idea what hit me just then. I just seem to get hit from nothing out of nowhere, which is really bizarre. I don't think I've ever quite encountered that before now,
If you've never had a
but still.
I'm very well read.
There are lots of things best experienced in person.
Your turn to confess.
Seriously, dude,
Tell me about your family.
you're really cutting it fine here. We're trying to get crap past the radar.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it was a
Radar?
long time ago.
What
Radar.
happened?
I should need to emphasise that stuff.
Someone else's war.
Were you young?
But
When you lost your
yeah,
parents?
now we get to learn a little bit more about the prince. He lost his parents,
My uncle took me.
which is really
My
sad.
parents stayed to protect the city. They'd collect me once it was safe. They never collected me.
Must have been difficult.
People live, people die. They chose to die for someone else's cause.
Your parents died with honor. To protect other people.
They died. Does the rest of it matter? You make your own path. I'm not gonna let Ahriman kill me or you.
We each have a role to play.
Once
Tell that to
again,
Ahriman.
just
Where's he?
all of the philosophies going on right now is really, really nice, I think.
Is there anything you've learned for yourself?
Really inspirational, I think, and it's something that,
That right.
even though it's a video game, it's something you can learn from.
If you know them.
Does that include your father?
My father is
'Cause
his part. Now we
Both
play ours.
Alaka and the Prince show elements of optimism and elements of pessimism, and
In your life that you couldn't change.
having them interact really helps you grow in terms of those sort of ideas.
You can change being here.
We are. A god wants to escape, and we're changing that. You can change anything. If
And
life is
so,
balanced, how come I keep getting the
as
end
we
of it
are
chewed up,
heading
spat
towards
out,
the end of this
sat on
part,
by a camel?
I will see you next time when we cover more of the Veil. I can't remember where we're going, but
You think bad things only
it
happen to bad
should
people?
be relatively
Tell me
fun.
you're the most
So
dedicated
I will see you then.
person I've met, and look where that got you.